The policy now that harm reduction really means, when you hear that in Canada, is that there needs to be what they call, quote unquote, a safer supply of drugs. Safer supply is this idea of harm reduction, that people are overdosing on tainted or somehow dangerous drugs. If we could just get them a safer supply of drugs, that way they wouldn't end up overdosing. But you can see where this leads. This continues to facilitate more addiction. And everything about our public policy setting says facilitate addictions through overdose reversal sites of drug consumption sites. And everything about the public policy continues to escalate and say, if you just had a safer supply of drugs, you wouldn't have an addiction crisis. But this isn't the case. So-called safer supply is really unsafe supply. It's the idea that if you mass distribute this pharmaceutical grade, high potency, high quality opioid, it's hydromorphone is what's used in Canada, that's 5 times more powerful than heroin, then if you do that, you can displace the use of other drugs like fentanyl. The problem is that when somebody's in an active opioid addiction, they're not interested in using what the government or the wider public would consider a safe or safer supply. In reality, what ends up happening is the government has about $100 million worth of high-powered pharmaceutical-grade opioids like hydromorphone distributed onto our streets. And then once it's distributed onto our streets through pharmacies, at dispensaries, and given to those in active addiction, they take that and they trade it with drug cartels and drug dealers so that they can get the high-powered opioid fentanyl that is 100 times more powerful than the hydromorphone. And they continue to seek the very, very potent, high-powered opioid of fentanyl, which continues to produce overdoses. And in the process, what's happened is the government of Canada has used its $100 million to line the pockets and give us very consistent supply of high-powered opioids to drug cartels. Now, the evidence of this is pretty clear. We've been seeing it reported through reporters like Adam Zivo in the National Post. We see a number of physicians and those in healthcare in places like Vancouver and London, Ontario, speaking about this over and over again, that we know this diversion is happening. And we also know that the RCMP have had seizures of tens of thousands of pills in British Columbia, for example, where they know that they came from safe supply. It's the same drug, it's hydromorphone, and its purpose is to be repurposed into provinces like Alberta, Saskatchewan, and others across this country, and it makes its way into new users in addiction, where the drug pushers and the drug cartels create a whole new category of young Canadians that are addicted to so-called safe drugs, known as dillies on the street, and we take this tragic cycle of addiction and expand it tenfold across our entire country. And sadly, it's the government's funded government heroin that is producing this in the form of so-called safe supply. And that's why I call it what it truly is, unsafe supply.